and even got occupied by 4 different countries. Yet, time and time again, they managed to bounce back from rock bottom. To this day, they remain the largest economy in Europe. And as for this country, how on earth did they actually pull it off? If you look at Germany after the Third World War, the Second World War, it was absolutely devastated. Even Japan couldn't compare. Although Japan had the do-or-die suicide plan back then, intending to mobilize the entire population, and go down fighting against the Americans. But after Japan experienced those 2 bright flashes, their eyes were wide open and clear. So, that suicide plan didn't even make it halfway through. But Germany was different. They fought the Allied forces down to the very last bullet. To the point that after the Soviets and Allies pushed into Germany, they unleashed a wave of brutal retaliation. Countless people were slaughtered, millions of women were violated, and even a dog passing by would likely get a kick for good measure. The entire country of Germany was reduced to rubble. At the time, some people mocked Germany, saying it would take them 20 years just to clear away all the construction debris. Even more fatal was the total collapse of their industry and technology. We all know, Germany was once the industrial heart of Europe. That immense industrial power was the backbone that gave Germany the confidence to spark 2 world wars. But after the war ended, Germany's industrial facilities were severely damaged. Whatever remained was picked apart, piece by piece, by the victorious nations. Everything from massive machine tools down to the railway tracks. They were desperate to hollow out Germany's industrial foundations completely. And the Americans were even more vicious. They didn't bother with the heavy, clunky machinery. Instead, they set their sights on Germany's high-end technology, especially the missile tech that had just started showing potential during the war. To get their hands on all of it, the US sent a special advance team ahead of time, grabbing nearly every single design blueprint, research paper, and experimental data, and shipping it all away. And even more ruthless, the US and the Soviet Union kicked off a massive race to poach their talent. The US snatched up the missile development team led by von Braun. This man later became a key figure in America's Apollo moon landing program. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union took away a vast number of industrial experts. These talents who once supported Germany's rise ultimately became stepping stones for both the US and the Soviet Union. And Germany was left in a dual vacuum of both technology and human capital. But all of this was only the loss that could be seen on the surface. During World War II, every single resource in Germany was poured into the war. Its economy was severely overdrawn. After the war, Germany's currency depreciated to an alarming degree. The common people could barely scrape by on scraps and leftovers. Even worse was the external situation. Despite both being defeated nations, the treatment of Japan and Germany was like night and day. Japan was originally planned to be jointly occupied by the United States, the Soviet Union, China, and Britain. But through a twist of fate, in the end, only the United States occupied Japan. To turn Japan into a strategic bridgehead, the US not only refrained from completely destroying Japan's industrial base, but also provided a massive amount of economic aid. Germany, however, wasn't nearly as lucky. It was truly and thoroughly divided into occupation zones by the 4 major powers: the US, the Soviet Union, Britain, and France. Every move it made was controlled by the Allies. And besides the United States, the Soviet Union, Britain, and France all held deep, blood-soaked grudges against Germany. They practically wanted to tear it to shreds on the spot. Back then, Germany was in a total mess internally, and surrounded by enemies on the outside. Many people asserted that Germany was completely finished. But no one expected that, even in such a hopeless situation, Germany would somehow create the most astonishing economic miracle in human history and complete its third rise. Many people are curious, how exactly did Germany manage to do it? The answer is complex, but it really boils down to 3 core points. Let's talk about the economic rise first. Many people credit it to the Marshall Plan. But in reality, long before American aid arrived, Germany had already laid the foundation for its economic miracle. And that was currency reform. Speaking of which, you really have to admire Germany's safety net mechanism. Every time the nation is on the brink of collapse, Germany always manages to pull a pity draw. And back in 1948, they drew the SSR-level pity card that was Erhard. As we all know, during World War II, the German currency had devalued to an absurd level. According to the Allied plan, Germany introduced the new Deutsche Mark at that time. completely scrapping the old currency. Yet, on that very same day, Erhard pulled off a desperate, high-stakes move. Without any approval from the Allied forces, he took it upon himself, in the name of the economic administration, to announce the abolition of almost all price controls and rationing. This was undoubtedly a blatant overreach of power. But Erhard was gambling. He was betting on America's Cold War mindset. At the time, the US desperately needed to support West Germany to counter the Soviet Union. And they certainly wouldn't easily overturn a policy that could stabilize the economy. Nor would they jeopardize the currency reform they had so carefully planned. Even more, he was betting on the fundamental logic of the market. Only with a stable currency and free prices would shops be willing to restock, and businesses dare to start production. And he was right to gamble. Under the complex gazes of the Allied commanders, empty shelves started filling up with goods. The black market vanished rapidly, and the US had no choice but to tacitly accept Erhard's unauthorized move. Besides that, Germany also seized two key opportunities. First, they actively integrated into European unity. And second, they leveraged the American Marshall Plan, receiving about $1.4 billion in economic aid, which helped Germany rapidly recover its industrial production. But then, a problem arose. Industrial production requires a workforce. Yet labor was the very resource Germany lacked the most. You have to remember, during World War II, Germany lost nearly 10 million young and able-bodied workers. There is a severe gender imbalance. This is undoubtedly the biggest challenge for economic reconstruction. To solve this problem, the German government introduced a series of policies to encourage childbirth. They provided substantial subsidies to families, offered tax cuts, improved childcare facilities, and protected women's employment rights. This allows women to have children and pursue their careers with peace of mind. The implementation of these policies has effectively boosted Germany's birth rate. But more importantly, Germany has never abandoned the philosophy of building the nation through education. Even during the most difficult post-war period, Germany did not cut its investment in education. Germany's vocational education system remains world-famous to this day. It doesn't just focus on theory like some other systems, but emphasizes the combination of theory and practice. Students attend classes while interning at companies. Upon graduation, they are ready to start work immediately. This has supplied the manufacturing industry with a large number of high-quality skilled workers. These workers are the key reason why German products are world-renowned. Beyond the rise of the economy and talent, there remains one final, most crucial point. That is Germany's thorough reflection on the war. Some defeated nations either evade historical culpability, or just pay lip service to it. But Germany is different. It chose to face history head-on, reflect deeply on its wartime actions, and make amends for its mistakes through concrete actions. The most impressive moment was the Kniefall von Warschau in 1970. The then Chancellor of Germany, Willy Brandt, fell to his knees before the monument to the ghetto heroes in Warsaw, mourning and apologizing to the innocent victims who perished in World War II. Brandt's kneeling shocked the entire world. It also caused many victimized nations to begin seeing Germany in a new light. This act laid the foundation for Germany's diplomatic breakthrough. And beyond the kneeling in Warsaw, Germany has done many practical things, such as establishing memorials and monuments across the country, declaring Nazism illegal, and strictly punishing any form of Nazi propaganda or activities. We must prioritize teaching history in our schools. We need to make sure the younger generation remembers the past, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. But the hardest part is, Germany actually took the initiative to pay war reparations to the victimized countries and people. It wasn't until 2010 that Germany paid the final interest installment for their World War I reparations to France, officially closing that chapter of history once and for all. It was precisely this kind of thorough self-reflection that earned Germany the respect of the entire world, allowing them to gradually regain their diplomatic sovereignty. At the same time, Germany also skillfully navigated the Cold War landscape. They managed to secure economic and technological support from the United States, while still maintaining a degree of cooperation with the Soviet Union, creating a stable external environment for their own economic growth. Germany has proven through its own experience that no matter how great the setbacks may be, as long as you find the right path, you can always rise from the ashes. The Third Rise of Germany is not just a miracle of national revival.